I'm gonna ask you a question. Would you guys want to eat something that can kill an entire herd of buffalo or sheep, leaving black spots in their lungs, or gives rats bleeding stomachs and then kills them? You may already be eating these things without knowing them. They can commonly be found in supermarkets and aren't required to be labeled by the FDA. What if I also told you these foods are contributing to the impoverishment of other nations, particularly in the developing world? These foods are genetically modified foods, and you may not have heard this side of the story before because you generally hear that they're going to end, poverty, world hunger, all the good things about them that's pushed on you by these seed-producing companies. But I'm going to give you the other side, tell you that GM foods are bad, genetically modified foods are bad, and I'm going to go about doing this by telling you about the effects they have on our health, the various consumer choices we have, and the socioeconomic effects. First, I'm going to touch on something you can all relate with, is the effect on your health. First, we are the guinea pigs for genetically modified foods. There's been no testing on genetically modified foods whatsoever because the big seed companies own the patents on all of these seeds, over 670 seeds, and that prohibits anybody from testing these. So we rely on data from animals, which isn't a direct correlation, but it gives us an idea. According to a study by the Institute for Responsible Technology, an experiment conducted on rats that were fed GM soy, all of them died. Only 10% of rats not fed the GM soy died. And the GM rats were also smaller and less fertile. Another surprising fact, or specific fact, is that 65% of all foods, or estimated about 65% of all foods in U.S. supermarkets contain ingredients from genetically modified foods. So we're eating this, and we don't even know, because it's not required to be labeled, we don't even know the long-term effects of it, because the long-term effects, this is relatively new, within the last 15 years, and it could take a long time for us to know what it's actually doing to us. For example, like in the late 1980s, L-tryptophan killed over 100 people and caused 5,000 to 10,000 people to be permanently disabled. It took us 4 years to even realize this was happening. If we don't know the disease exists, how are we going to detect it? So next, another shocking example is in Indonesia, an entire herd of sheep were killed when GM cotton was introduced to their diet in their natural habitat. And then a small follow-up study was conducted afterwards by the Deacon Development Society, which fed sheep GM cotton, and all sheep died again within 30 days. So do you really want to be eating things that could be killing animals and we don't even know what it's doing to us yet? Now I'm going to talk about how though GM crops may increase the yield of food that comes out, it's not necessarily a good thing because these could have detrimental health effects. Plus, it's affecting the consumer choices because the transnational companies that own all the patents on these seeds they're huge and they're formidable forces to try and fight. So we can't really do anything about it. But what they are doing, Monsanto is the largest seed company. They own 90% of all patents on genetically modified foods. They're huge. They bribed Indonesian officials to accept their food policies. It's been shown that they supported the growth of genetically modified foods in Brazil and Paraguay, despite it being illegal in those countries. So they're not exactly the most trustworthy companies. And it's even been shown that former Monsanto employees currently hold positions in the U.S. government by a Senate report published by Donald Bartlett. Some of these people include Clarence Thomas, who's a Supreme Court Justice. He used to work for Monsanto. That's clearly not a good thing. Others include Michael Taylor, Ann Benjamin, and Linda Fisher. Linda Fisher is even switching back and forth between the EPA and Monsanto. So she's clearly got her priorities not in the right place. Next, I'm going to tell the top 3 GM foods in 2008 were maize, corn, and cotton. This is according to Nathan Battalion. And all these foods are very important to the third world. They're staples to their diet, and they have to come to us for these foods, and we're selling these foods at a high price, higher than what we're actually selling them to U.S. Citizens, and they have less money, which doesn't seem to make much sense. Not to mention that they've helped contribute to these seeds. For thousands of years, they helped produce what we currently have through hybrids and other methods, not necessarily through genetic modification. And it doesn't seem fair that patents can be placed on these things, because you're not even supposed to be able to put a patent on life. It's actually illegal, but somehow there's still patents placed on seeds. Next, traditional farmers are being pushed off their lands because transnational corporations can just buy them out, and they need room for their growing GM crops. And we need to do something about this, or else all the farmers are going to be gone, and that's a livelihood for a lot of people. And lastly, I'm going to talk about various socioeconomic concerns, particularly in the third world, which a lot of you probably aren't even aware of. First, it's estimated that the biotech industry will find at least $14 billion worth of substitutes for third world farming products, and that completely debilitates the third world countries. They can't compete with that, and it's shown that whoever controls the seeds controls the food. So transnational corporations control the seeds, developing nations can't do anything about it, and it can potentially create deadly dependency relationships where they can't branch out from the U.S. They have to rely on us for their food, and it's just not good for their development, how they will be developed if they can't have some sort of independence. Okay, so now that you know the bad things about GM foods, I'm going to tell you what you can do to help. First, you can buy locally, you can support your local farmers, go to maybe a food co-op or farmer's market, buy at a local grocery store, labeled organic. It may be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to help your health in the long run. I'm sure it'll be revealed very shortly whenever we can test these things. And it's also, it's going to help a better cause than helping all these huge corporations. Next, if you're appalled by what these companies are doing in the third world, you can do something with Oxfam or Interaction, and they accept donations or volunteers. And their goal is to reduce poverty and injustice in the world and promote equality for all people and nations. So this is a good cause you should all get involved with. And lastly, you can contact your congressman, and that's the easiest way. You can just write a simple letter and say that you demand change. And we can all raise consumer awareness to help people you know. With more consumer awareness, we have more power, and hopefully I've done my part in informing you about the bad things that GM Foods are doing, and hopefully you can do your part now.